Talking with the experts.
Hello and welcome to Talking with the Experts. My name's Rose Davidson from rosedavidson.com, and today my guest is Christine Sharkey from QuoteConvert. And Christine is passionate about helping businesses to grow and to give their clients and potential clients an excellent customer experience. And I will let Christine tell you a little bit more about her business. Welcome, Christine, and thank you for joining me today.
Oh, thanks, Rose. It's really a delight to be here with you. I thank you for the opportunity. QuoteConvert was born from a realization of experience from our business as a security firm offering alarms and CCTV and things like that. And I was the person who created the leads, followed up, sent the quotes out, followed up the quotes and those kinds of things. And quite often my husband would ask people afterwards, why did they go with us? And they would say, many of them would say, because you're the only one who followed us up. And I went, really? So when my husband decided to slow down, I thought this was a golden opportunity to actually help businesses that don't follow up to follow up. Lots of reasons for that. I mean, there's a quote that says the money is in the follow-up, and it most certainly is. And we've had that experience here when we've had people quote for us. And then, as I said, we've had a lot of experience with that kind of thing in the security industry. And it's across the board. It doesn't matter where it is. I've been to many places where they just don't follow up, and it's not even it's not that they don't like doing it necessarily, or even that they don't think it has value, but they often just don't have time. It's one of the most time-consuming, disruptive jobs in a business, because you can't just allot an hour or 2 hours or a morning to do it, because people don't answer their phone. They certainly don't ring you back. So you actually have to ring them again on another day or another hour. And you're in the middle of other things and don't want to stop because you lose the flow that you have in your workplace. So that's why I started QuoteConvert, because I thought people would love to have somebody to do that for them and represent their company in a really professional way and give their potential customers such an excellent service that they would want to go with that company.
Wow, that's really innovative. I had not heard of any businesses or anyone doing that before. It's it's a first, and a wonderful idea for business owners. I think it's terrific. Well done for thinking of it. So tell me.
I love to do. So I love talking with people. So for me, it's just a great thing to be able to do.
It's a no-brainer, you reckon?
Yeah.
Yeah. So tell me, why is it important to follow up with your clients? If you've provided a quote to somebody and they haven't, say, returned your call to say, or entered, your queries about the quote, why is it important to follow up?
Let me tell you a story. We had 3 businesses come and quote for us for a patio. We never heard from 2 of them ever again. So I don't even know what the names of those companies are. If I did, I might tell people don't bother with them because their service is so lousy. But the one who stayed with us through a lengthy process. I mean, building a patio and all those things, they're quite expensive items. You don't just make a decision as soon as they walk in the door or walk out of the door. And we had a number of things where we went, oh, we need to change this, or what if we did that? And so this guy stayed with us through the whole process. And what he didn't know, he went and found out and came back to us. And it was probably, 2-3 months from when he first came. Now, if he hadn't done that, we probably wouldn't have given him the work.
Yep, makes sense. So, so I guess the follow-up is either you get the work or you don't get the work. And, if someone's provided a quote, they should at least ring back and say, well, have you gotten the quote? Are you happy with it? Is there something that we can do about that?
There's a lot more skill to it than that, though, Rose. There are companies out there who do ring and say, did you get the quote? But that's where they leave it. They just leave it in, well, if you want to use us, ring us back. You know, I mean, what sort of service is that? That's
Yep.
not service. How do you increase your sales? Which is like, you know, my tagline is Queen of Follow-up, building relationships and increasing sales 10 to 20%. How do you build a relationship in one phone call? How do you increase your sales by getting more of those quotes turned around for you in one phone call? You can't. It just doesn't work like that.
All right.
Like we all know, having been through COVID, and you know, particularly people in Victoria, they're probably the worst hit with it all. And the relationships, but even for all of the eastern states as well, relationships became such an important factor in being able to get through this time of isolation. And that's just a very dramatic example of a small thing like what we do. And that is to keep that relationship going, keep care, because people sometimes they want to get something done, and it might cost them 15, 20, 30,000, 5,000 even. It might be a lot of money for some people. And they start the process, and then suddenly the car dies. And all of a sudden, that job that is going to be $5,000 or $10,000 has to be put on the side while they replace the car, because that's a higher priority. But it doesn't mean they don't want the job done. It just means there has to be a delay. Now, if you're not following up and building that relationship with them, then you don't know that. And therefore, you can't program to ring them in 3 or 6 months' time when there's going to be more money available. And therefore, you just lose it. You just lose it.
Okay, so explain then how the process actually works. So how do you do the follow-up for other businesses? So if someone was going to do a follow-up with another business, what are the steps that they would have to go through to make that process convert to an actual paying client?
One of the first things that we like to do with a business is to have a look at the procedure they've got in place at the time. Lots and lots of businesses don't have procedures at all. Some of them have very loose ones. And if they were to sit somebody new down in front of what they've got written, it may well be that person would be totally lost, because not every step is included. So what we like to do is have a look at where the lead comes in and where the sale takes place, and then have just assess the whole thing, evaluate it, find the gaps, the holes, the things that are not working properly, restructure it and test it out, and then present them with a written procedure so that they've actually got something they can use for themselves in their business and for training if they would like to do that. Once that's happened, then they can either train their own people with that, or we can help train their own people, or they can get us to do the calls. So with the calls, we do phone calls. We will do the occasional text if that's necessary after some phone calls, but we don't automate anything. We're a real service. We're a people-to-people service, and we're a service that wants to help a business grow. I mean, I can think of nothing more exciting than to have a client say to me, and this happened to me recently, a client said to me, we have to restructure. Interestingly, they said it's got nothing to do with what you've done. Like, they're trying to say to me, you haven't done anything wrong. But it actually had everything to do with what we'd done, because they had to stop paying us so that they had money now, because they got to such a good place. They now had to restructure and then put on a new salesperson so that they could double their workload, but they couldn't afford that immediately as well as me. So we're going to work together again in the future, but for now they've got to a great place where they can actually start to grow more. And then when that settles a bit, then they want to grow some more, then we'll do some more work for it. And that to me is the most exciting thing. It's just such a reward to know that you've helped a small business grow.
Yeah. So I guess I guess what I'm trying to get at is not necessarily how you do the business,
Okay.
but what a business they could do if they're not using like your service, but how they could actually do it themselves. what would be the process that they should put in place to, get from the quote to the conversion and the sale at the end? So using what you do, using the process that you do,
Right.
what would be the process that they should follow, perhaps?
Ring the people. I mean, you need a CRM or some way to task the call so that you know when you have to ring people. Use your CRM or your database or whatever people have to know when to ring people. So, ring them back and find out what their concerns are. Ring them back and, you have to quite often just wait. They may not have all their quotes in, so now you have to ring them back again. Really, the process is continuing to ring them back. When I was ringing a business, a guy, a coach, that he was wanting to see how he could use my services, and it got to the point where he didn't answer his phone. And so it got to the point where I just said to him, when I left message, it's your stalker here. And that's very tongue-in-cheek, but it's a little bit like that. It's that you have to be persistent, and you need to want the work, I think, and to have the kind of approach where people don't feel as though you're hassling them, but that you're caring for them and that you're concerned about, are they okay? Are they doing all right? You're just wanting to give them really good customer service and a great customer experience. And I don't know how else to explain to anybody other than keep ringing them, keep talking to them.
That's perfect.
Yeah.
Absolutely perfect. And so once they've got the sale, so what would they be doing past that, obviously, other than doing the work? So what would be, the process or that they should be following once they've received the sale?
Well, once they've done the job, it's probably more about where I would have some expertise and some experience, and that would be in ringing afterwards. It does depend a little bit if the owner is the person who does the job,
yep,
then he knows how it's left. But if you have tradies working for you or subcontractors or anybody like that, you need to be ringing that client after the job is done and make sure, did they take the rubbish away? Did they leave your carpets clean? Did they leave, grease marks in your bathroom after they washed their hands and things like that? Or was the job done to the standard that business would like to have or does have? And that way, if there is anything at all that has gone wrong, you can circumnavigate the situation and actually correct it or apologize for it or do whatever's necessary, so that afterwards, instead of those people going to the neighbors and going, oh my God, it was terrible, they did this, they did that, because that's exactly what people do, they will actually be able to go, they did these things, but they fixed it. And I don't know about you, Rose, but I've had that happen to me.
Yeah.
They haven't done the job to a standard that I think was acceptable, and they never bothered to ask me, and so they don't know that I'll never use them again.
No, and they've left a mess. They've left a mess in whatever place that they've been doing, whether it was plaster dust or sawdust or something. They haven't cleaned up after themselves, and it's a job for me to do, and I shouldn't have had to be doing that job because it's not how they found it. They should leave it the way they found it.
Exactly, or better.
Yes, exactly.
If you leave it even better. I mean, that way you get great feedback by having that communication. And, it's really hard to make that call sometimes if you're a bit worried, because you kind of don't want to take on board the wrath of somebody who's not happy. But that person's going to be much softer in their approach to you when they know that you've rung them to find out, and that because you care.
Yeah.
And you have a high standard. And that way then, once that's all settled and sorted, then you can go for a review and get a great review.
Yeah, no, I reckon that's a great plan.
Yeah.
In any business. I mean, even if this is not just for trade type businesses, but even if like a service-based business, if you're an admin business or a VA or whatever type of business that you're running, I think it's always good to have a follow-up with the client to see if they're happy with what you provided. So if you're a speaker, and you've provided a workshop, you should ask. You should ask the person who booked you, were they happy with the workshop? Have you heard any feedback from the people who attended? And I think that's great. That it's great advice. I think everyone should be doing it.
Absolutely. But as I said before, it is so time consuming, and it is difficult to do, because if it's your business and your quote is out there, you're kind of invested in the yes or no and don't want to hear the no. Or actually, some people just don't have the skill, or some people don't like getting on the phone. I mean, I find that weird, but because I love getting on the phone.
Yeah.
But I get it that some people just are terrified of the whole idea. But how does a business grow? How do you increase your sales 10 to 20%? How do you go to that next step? How do you build relationships even? I have there's a couple of industries that are starting to warm to what I do as well, not so much because they do quotes, but because they are in an industry that is not known for caring for its clients. And so we'll be starting work soonish, one in the financial planning industry and one in the mortgage industry, where we're going to start making calls to nurture the clients that they've already got. And in mortgages, then, there's lots of different ways that you can help those clients. They may not have known there's been a change or realised that the change in the interest rate could be useful to them, that they would be able to perhaps take advantage of that. And also the insurance industry, following up on the clients they've got to make sure that they're cared for. And then often there's an opportunity there to upsell. So, there's other places. It's not just the quotes that can be where you can build relationships and provide excellent customer service.
Absolutely. So have you ever thought about running a training course on this type of a thing, on what you do?
Yeah, it is something that's in my mind to do. At the moment, my business is still reasonably young, and I think I'm open to suggestions always, but at the moment in my thinking, it's that I need to build this up to a better place first. And in doing that, I'll be able to probably more accurately put together training. So, because I'm experiencing it in that situation. I know I did it in our security firm, but that's different. It's only one firm, and we had our way of doing it. But once I've experienced a number of them, I think I'll be able to put a better thing together for people.
Yeah, I was just curious to know if you had something in place. I think a lot of people would benefit from that training. A lot of businesses would benefit from the training on the follow-up, to better their businesses and get clients.
Yeah, it's certainly something that I need to consider. Probably now you've brought it up again for me. It's been in the back of my mind a little bit, but I'll have to now ponder it a bit more.
Might be synergy there.
That's a good thing. I love synergy because you get so much more out of two than you get out of 1 + 1.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
So what if any wise words have you got to any businesses out there who maybe not using the follow-up process to the best of their advantage?
If they're doing their follow-ups, but not doing them to the best, not finding the best way to do them, I'd certainly be more than happy to have a conversation with them. If I can help them tweak a little bit just by a conversation, I'm always happy to help. I am a giver by nature, so I don't hide my bushel, my light under a bushel and say it's mine and you can't have it unless you pay for it or anything like that. I am, I think, a fairly generous person, so I would be happy to have a conversation with anybody. And even if all we did was put together the package where we look at from the lead to the sale and make sure that's really clear and really concise, and then they've got something useful to train with, if that's the way they would like to go. And once we have that, we can certainly come in and help train their people in the process. But I think, the wisdom, I think, is that the money is in the follow-up. It's almost a no-brainer, really. Yeah. That if you don't do that, your chances of winning the work are reduced significantly. And why would you do that? Quoting takes so much time. I mean, the generation of the leads costs money. And we can help too if they get inundated with warm leads. We can always make calls for them, follow those up, get them actually in the early stages, not leaving them 2 weeks before somebody gets back to them and things like that, because that's not good customer experience. We can help them to get that process in place so that then they can do it for themselves. And so we can train them in that as well if they'd like to do that. But yeah, there has to be a follow-up. You can't grow if you don't follow up, really. I'm absolutely convinced of that.
Yeah, pretty good advice there, Christine. Thank you so much for today. It's been enlightening, and I'm sure many business owners will come to you now and get all the good oil on the follow up and what they should be doing if they're not doing it correctly. So I think you've given them some food for thought there.
Oh, thanks, Rose. It's just been great. I mean, I just love the subject so much. I'm just so passionate about giving people great experiences and nurturing people, making sure they know they're taken care of, that people care. You're not just a number in a book somewhere, but this company cares about you and they really want to work with you. It's just such a great thing.
It is. It is. It shows your humanity, I think.
Yeah, I think that's the thing, isn't it? If we don't care for people, what else is? I was actually looking before I came a couple of days ago. I thought, wonder what my values are that I wrote down 2 years ago. And the first one was, and I was a bit surprised because I actually couldn't remember what I'd written down. But the first one was, people are more important than anything.
They are.
And that's I guess the bottom line for us.
Yeah, for carers, people who care are, I think, going to rule the world one day. All right, Christine, thank you so much for your time today, and it's been lovely chatting to you, and I hope I'll be able to chat to you again soon.
Thanks a lot, Rose. Really appreciate it.
Okay, bye.
Bye.